Nevertheless, violence is continuing in many parts of these two provinces and may be spilling over to other provinces. Some have characterized these actions as a form of political protest. May indeed have its roots in the pronouncements and activities of individuals with a political purpose and in expressions of frustration and anger. At the beginning of this unrest, there may have been some people who sought to agitate ethnic lines. We know the majority of our people have, out of principle, refused to be mobilized along these ethnic lines. However, what we are witnessing now are opportunistic acts of criminality, with group people instigating chaos merely as a cover for looting and theft. There is no grievance nor any political cause that can justify the violence and the destruction that we have seen in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. Our recovery as well. These disruptions were cutting off the supply chains, that's the path of violence, of looting and anarchy, leads only to more violence and devastation, as well as suffering. It leads to more poverty, more unemployment, and more loss of innocent life. This is not who we are as South Africans. This is not us. Time and time again, we have chosen a different path, a path of peace, a path of engagement, and a path of democracy. We have chosen to pursue dialogue and protest rather than violence, chaos. No matter our position or our stances, has an interest in maintaining and upholding the rule of law in our country. It is therefore a matter of vital importance that we restore calm and stability to all parts of the country without any delay. It is vital that we prevent any further loss of life or injury or destruction of valuable infrastructure and property that sustains the lives of our people. Yes, it is important that we protect property. We are therefore mobilizing all available resources and capabilities to restore order in our country. As the Commander-in-Chief of the South African Defence Force and our security forces, I have today authorized the deployment of the Defence Force personnel in support of the operations of the South African Police Service. National Joint Operation Intelligence Structure known as NetJoin has intensified deployments in all affected areas in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng. The South African Police is putting measures in place to call up operational members from leave and rest days to increase the presence of law enforcement personnel on the ground. The NetJoin is receiving support from the Intelligence Coordinating Committee, comprising of South African Police Service, Crime Intelligence, Defense Intelligence, and State Security. In addition to gravity and an intelligence personnel sports, we will be prioritizing the of suspects alleged to be involved in this violence. The National Security Council, which I chair as Commander Chief, will be meeting twice a day to coordinate all measures necessary to restore stability in that I have given our security personnel. We will restore calm and order so that we can get on with the task of rebuilding this country and creating a better life for its people. For democratic change, we came together as a society to end the violence that was rampant in many of our communities. We came together as religious leaders, as traditional leaders, as trade unions, as businesses, community organizations, political parties, non-governmental organizations, sporting organizations, and many others to bring peace to our nation. Now we need to come together once again, for each of us to play our part in restoring calm to these areas that have been affected by violence, for each of us to stand up for the rule of law and for the peaceful resolution of the situation that confronts us. This afternoon, ministers and senior officials in the economic and security clusters met with Business Unity South Africa to talk of the situation and to develop coordinated actions. We have agreed to work together to ensure the safety of drivers, of cashiers, of patients, and customers. We have agreed to share information as well as resources to ensure that we restore key supply chains that drive our economy and improve our livelihoods. We are making arrangements for government leaders and public representatives as part of their responsibilities, be they mayors, members of parliament, members of provincial legislature, to meet with leaders in various communities to promote stability. As part of engagement with key sectors of society and to gain from their wisdom on how to work together to address the current situation. We are called upon, wherever we may be, to remain calm, to exercise restraint, and to resist any attempts to incite violence, create panic, or fuel divisions amongst us. Whether we are leaders of political parties, taxi associations, business organizations, or unions, we need to do everything in our means to calm the situation that confronts our country right now. We should refrain from posting and circulating inflammatory messages on social media and from spreading rumors that may create further panic amongst our people. No one should take the law into their own hands. Rather, we should join those individuals and communities who are currently working with the police to prevent looting, and those members of the public who have provided tip-offs and information about instances of criminality. I'd like to thank a number of members of our communities around the two provinces who have taken trouble to engage amongst themselves as community members to prevent any further looting. I'd also like to thank acts of violence and provocation, which has helped to avert bloodshed and to limit the loss of lives. We extend our best wishes for a speedy recovery to the 4 South African Police Service members injured during this. Constable Sangwe, who was shot, his 2 colleagues, Sergeant Marahani and Lieutenant Colonel Neforobodwe, who were hit with bricks, and Constable Siloane, who was shot and injured in Davidton. Fellow South Africans, this violence and destruction takes place in the midst of a devastating pandemic. There is danger awaiting murder personnel. And as it is now, a number of health personnel have stayed away from their duties because of the fear of being caught in the crossfire. There is also a danger that our vaccination program will be disrupted in some areas, just as we need to significantly expand this. Today, the acting Minister of Health informed me that they had to stop the vaccination program in a number of places in the country. We cannot allow this to happen. We will not allow this to happen. We've got to act. This moment has thrown into stark relief that what we already know, that the level of unemployment, poverty and inequality in our society is unsustainable. This is a lasting and durable peace if we do not create jobs and build a more just and equitable society in which all South Africans can participate freely as well as equally. We must therefore commit ourselves not only to peace, but to economic opportunity for all. We are emerging now from a long period of uncertainty and stagnation. We have witnessed the effects of corruption and the erosion of the state, the terrible consequences of the abuse of power, and the neglect of duty. We have begun a process of healing, a process of reconstruction, and a process of renewal. We have set our country on a path of progress and recovery. We cannot allow a few people among us to threaten this collective and to stop us on our path to putting in the reforms and the economic reconstruction that we should have. We will protect our democracy so that we can consolidate our gains. We will reject violence and chaos so that we can move forward. Let me repeat, we are building up and not shutting down. We will not be deterred as South Africans from the task that lies ahead of us. As we have been faced many times before, with a moment of challenge and great promise. Let us choose the path of peace and renewal and shun violence. Let us stand firm and emerge stronger. Together we will defeat those who seek to destabilize our country, who seek to reverse the gains that we have made. We will stand as one and must stand as one, united against violence, unanimous in our commitment to peace and to the rule of law. This is what we must do as South Africans. And this violence that has engulfed some parts of our country must come to an end. And let us work together to bring this to an end. I thank you, fellow South Africans. Thank you.
Amaphoyisa afika amthathe ngaphakathi nokwenza njani?
Awangene phela sibabhekile ngoba silanje sifuna wona awangene
Ngoba mangiwabuka nje ngiyabona
Thank you so much, Former President Ramaphosa, for addressing some of the violence that is taking place in and around South Africa. Very disturbing stories, and there's been a number of people that have been saying a lot of message. VJ was said to save innocent life. He thinks President Jacob Zuma must be released. And the question was, do you think President JZ should be released? Do you think then this man should be released for the sake of prison? And then Siawonga said, yes, he must be free. He must be. And then let's hear what Freddie Masinga said. For peace sake, he must be released, though this decision will compromise the justice system, will be valueless. And then we've also Melissa Lakekana said, no, he should remain in prison. We should send a strong message to the people who think they are above the law. The rule of the law should be respected. That was Comrade, my brother Melissa Lakekana. Thank you so much. Keep the message coming. And then Princess Ayanda said, yes, they must release him. What we can have peace. And then Andile Mzikubeka said yes. And then Noisiziwe Peterson said, no, big no. If he is out, all prisoners will be out of justice for all. No one is above the law. No Mpumelelo Lelo Muloko said yes. And then and Nosisiwe Peterson again said big no. And then Andile said yes. And then as well as Tandelwe said big no. And then it says big no, nobody's above the law. And as well as Pelacheng Makalafula said no. Tumisani Ncele said Zuma must be released. The question that we are asking today, do you think President Zuma should be released? If the answer is yes, why? If it's no, why? And give us the reason. Malukirindlovu said no. And then Harat Mastavaza said yes. Stembile said yes. And then as well as Brenda said yes. Akakhululwe ubaba wethu. And then as well as Kolwane Militong, let the man stew his own soap. That's and there's no ways, no one is above the law. And as well as Fiso say yes, but this man is not willing to do so. I don't know who his man is Fiso referring to. Ntombizoto Makalema said yes. And then yeah. And then the rule of the law shall be obeyed by the richer and the poor. So the question that we have today is that, do you think former President Zuma should be released? And then this is my other thinking. My other question is that, do you think this violence has something to do with Zuma? I just think these are people who just want to loot. These are people that they see opportunity in terms of looting. With me, I'm joined by former chairperson of the ANC in Mpumalanga. Nkululeko said, replying to, he said, exactly, which I do not know what exactly was it for. And then that's Nkululeko Hlengwa. And then as well as Tembeka Zima Toleni said no. That's Comrade Charles. What is your take in this situation? What do you think should be done? You are not edible. You're not audible, comrade. We are having a problem with Comrade Charles Makula, who is the former ANC deputy chairperson in Mpumalanga, and as well as a former lecturer at Wits University, a man who have his political journey has been a very outstanding in the province of Mpumalanga. Unfortunately, our volume, his side, I think we are disturbed with the connections, and it's been difficult. And then China Smith said yes, he should. And I mean, for as many crimes which he has been trailed. He only is found guilty for not wanting to appear before the judge Zondo. Seriously, Musani ukudlala ngathi futhi noma ingathi leadership yethu ANC sizo. I do not understand what she's writing. Try to write in a letters that we all will be able to also understand. And then there's Nkululeko Kanga replying to Jovas said, the law does not have a fine option what he did. I don't know, maybe. Comrade Charles, I think Comrade Charles is been capitalized by the network wherever he is. Comrade Charles, I think he has a network issue. What we're discussing about is that, do you think Comrade JZ or the former president of this country must be released, yes or no? And you have it already, it's in your phone. And that's what we are discussing about, is that, do you think the former president should be released? And do you think this violence that is taking place, are this violent connected to JZ or Kiditsotsi fela? And I think we should refuse looting. We should distance ourselves from looting. These are just looters. And then we should. I'm looking at my WhatsApp. There's nothing sent here. We should refuse looting and not be part of the looters. That some of the messages are coming in, and somebody said, we in Newcastle, we refuse looting. That's a good thing. We should actually stand against looting, and looting should not be a part of us. And Comrade Charles, I think Comrade Charles is been challenged by a network. I understand at his age, obviously, the network will be a challenge. Comrade Classy, he is the South African chairperson of the Young Black Management Forum, and is also a secretary of National Economic Forum. Comrade Classy, how are you?
Fine and you, leadership. Let me just join popularly. And
yes, we've been having a number of messages. I've never had a message like today, where people have been saying no, and some said yes. What do you think about the violence that is taking place? Do you think this is genuine? Do you think this is mixed up with some criminal element that is taking place?
Correct. Thank you. Let me greet everyone, perhaps as the part of the procedural thing. We'll be highlighting number of things in reference to what has actually happening into the whole nation. Currently, we are calling this state as the unrest. It's the unrest state because the entire nation is particularly involved under one name that is just a spinning twin, the name of Free Zuma campaign. It has nothing in terms of releasing Zuma. The marches that we are seeing going on today, so forth, have nothing in relation to free Zuma. You can't free somebody who is in a correctional facilities by a mere march on the street. So this is the clear tone that we are learning into our spaces of today, as one thing has happened from all long time ago that we haven't seen such activities happening. One, these activities that we are witnessing them today, They have nothing in relation to the arrest of President Jacob Zuma. Two, we are seeing and witnessing criminal activities, looting, in number of things, and so. And while all these things are actually happening, they perpetuate because of our people who are having criminal mentality. Whenever there is an opportunity, our people become too opportunistic and utilize that spaces and abuse it. They abuse the space to such an extent that they go to the malls, the shops of our capitalists, of our business people, entrepreneurs, either foreign, local, or so. And they take what the people have worked so hard to build in order to service the country and service them, by the way. Three, the act of violence that we have seen, destroying of cars, destroying of shops, destroying of buildings, government infrastructure, and private infrastructures. It is something that we have learned before during apartheid and post democracy. We've seen more lesser of such happening in other strikes, such as the student march strike that happened 6 years ago. But what we should relate to currently is that we should condemn such acts of violence that is happening amongst and perpetuated by the black people who are the majority class. The minority are just seated and watching the stupidity that these certain masses that they are saying they are having. The issue that makes all these lot of things, number one, as we have analyzed and checked what really makes these people to behave in this fashion. So in our analysis, we have checked that one, these are the people who are poor. They are driven by poverty. They are driven by hunger. They are driven by dryness. They are driven by drought. They are driven by dispossession of wealth and dispossession of economy. We might be disappointed by seeing those who are wealthier enough, or we think like they're the middle class, who are also acting into such form of violence because of desire and because of peer pressure. It is not because they can't buy and afford those things. It's because of desire and because of being driven and bad association and having an interest to actually have a criminal mentality to loot, which they are even going to in the following day when they're prosecuted. They will end up saying that what we have done, it was wrong. And they will lose number of things because once you have a criminal record, therefore you lose many things. So after identifying all these matters, we have realized that again, within the spaces, we realized that when the nation it is not empowered economically, it turns into any forms of violence. It turns into any acts that they believe they should be entering into. If we were in UK and the majority are empowered, we're not going to be witnessing kind of this situation. We're witnessing this situation merely because our people are out of power, economical power. Our people are sick and tired of being unemployed. People were retrenched in their working places. Companies are closed. They don't receive services and contracts any longer. The offices are not even occupied majorly. People are seated at home. They're having a lot of stress. They're thinking many things. They don't even think straight. They don't even think what is it that they should be doing going forward. So the only activity that comes into play under this level 4, remember South Africa is placed on alert level 4 based on the rising of COVID numbers that we are seeing daily basis. So this level 4 actually makes people not to move around in different spaces. It has locked even what you call the central power of the economy, which is Gauteng, not to have any movement anymore. And when people are not visiting others any longer, that is where the media things started to happen. People start to regroup each other, understanding that this will be the activity that takes off their frustrations. And I will tell you, others are doing it because of pleasure, not because of their having criminal activities or so, but the acts that they do is end up being a criminal offense. But the pleasure that they are providing or having makes them to perpetuate into thinking into that fashion. Some they are doing it merely because one or two of the people that they know, they have actually entered into that space of looting. Then they end up joining them and going and take what is it that they don't even know whether they will use it or not use it. But if it's food, actually they will end up eating such food in the spaces that they do have. So these actions that we are realizing today, they are driven again by lack of education. So the majority citizens that it is not being educated enough, it is the citizens which actually suffers a lot of oppression. Education reveals oppression, and education makes people to see things differently. So people who are not in such spaces, in idling in such spaces, they end up making a lot of things that will be terrorizing the community. And in this fashion, these instances that we are having, we can't be able to tolerate them any longer. We have seen and heard number of addresses merely from the politicians trying to address in these different angles. But you might find that it is not too much assistive. Even going into the floor and assisting such part might end up not being too assistive because of these people are actually angry and they are hungry. So everything that they has within green makes them to end up taking things that they are not belonging to them and making that as like they behave to belong to them. Lastly, what we will be witnessing going forward is that once prosecuted and arrested, these people are taken to correctional facilities and are taken to police custody, whereby there is not even enough space because the centers are crying about overloading. So once you bring more people, the overloading space as well will counter that is no longer having enough capacity. We are under COVID. This is what people are not actually taking it into mind. We're under COVID, they're striking, people are striking for their own health, people are surviving, others they are not. And when you end up being incarcerated, you are in number. There's no space where they can put you. There can't even be social distancing. They can't even be anywhere. So police people are forced by the circumstances to act in a manner that it is contravening the social distancing restrictions or regulations or even advisory the alerts. And this is going to make the country to suffer a lot. Once two or three people having different commodities in their lives and are also having the COVID, so they end up going to hospital. Some they survive, some they don't. Hospital is out of capacity. Major of them in Gauteng. What will happen when people arrive? They seek particular type of that elements to increase or have support of their lives, and there are no machines, by the way, to assist them in supporting their lives. It is a problem. You have stolen a TV or television or a plasma which cost about 1.5, 1.8. Then in a week or so, you contracted COVID. You seek medical support, you seek health support. You go again to the hospital and say the very same government that you looted from must be able to assist you. And once there's no assistance, you start to complain and say these people are not taking care of me. It is very disastrous
Thank you.
situation that we haven't seen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's a number of messages that are flooding in. I'm just going to read the few. Princess Ayanda said they must release him that we may have peace. And then Andile Kubeka said, yes, they must release him. And then Nasiziwa Peterson said, no, big no. If he is out, all prisoners must all be out. Justice for all. No one is above the law. And then Pumelele said yes. And then Nasiziwe said big no. And then Andile said Sfiso kwamavundlana mabunda akuna kinga. You don't have to analyze anything to me. Thank you. And then This one said, Chima, something do you mean to fight for our freedom? I think crime is crime. Doesn't go by who is whom, what age. And then somebody said, why don't they find him and ransom? And then Kulek, there's a number of messages. I can't read all of them, but keep them coming in. Thank you, Libu. There's also Libu have joined us. Libu, what do you think about this looting? The malls have been broken, and which is this mall? They do support somebody in the very same location, and then you find our own brothers going to the very same place and loot again. I think Libu has a problem. Classy, what do you think about this looting? What do you think about this looting, my brother?
Thank you. Firstly, you will see that the very same people indeed who are working at the malls or so, they're from the locations, they're from outside the cities because they can't even afford staying in the city unless if they are supported by the other partner or by the family. But if they stand on their own, staying in the city is very expensive. They have to come to the nearest township locations because you might find that they are earning less than 9,000, some 3.5 or so. So might be unable to pay the rents into the city. They go there because they are having problems at home, which is an economical problem, and they want to support their families. So societal challenges and societal cohesion comes into an effect. You can't live without a means of earning and a means of survival. You need means of survival by actually being employed. And not necessarily because you wanted to be employed or so. Some they did it because they want to unleash the skills that they have learned in educations and so. But others they go to such spaces merely because they don't want to unleash spaces, they only want to earn. So we've got different types of people who are entering into the services of employment. And once those people arrive there, you find that they are supporting or they are a pillar in the families. Some they are supporting 2, 3 children. Some they are supporting even the worst part, the grandchildren that they do have. The very same person who goes and burns the shop of the person who is working in that shop might find me that you are burning the shop of someone who's taking care of your son because you ran away as a father, don't want to take responsibility, or you are unable to support that person, or they are meeting you halfway. There are many social elements you can put into place, which is not the core idea now. But the core idea that I'm driving is that you are banning something that is assisting people to alleviate the poverty at home, to alleviate the suffering at home. And you are saying they must no longer be able, they must come back and join you on the seat because you're also on the seat on the street. You are actually contributing towards making unemployment to exaggerate, and we're making it difficult to government to come back and provide what you call a grant support for those who are unable to provide for themselves. So what we are increasing is a burden to government budget.
And
Thank
there is well as Silo and Kalan who have joined here. I think it's she's one of the sister that I know. Kalan, how are you? I think the network disappointed her. Now, does people understand the consequences of these strikes that they're doing? This looting and the killing, vandalizing of the structure. Do they understand the consequences of it? That it might even affect the very same person who goes and loot something that might not even sustain them for the next 5 days.
You see, when you check into the broadening and the depth of our law is very systematic, and our law is something which doesn't have emotions. People, they go to the looting spaces or violence or any acts of criminality, understanding that whatever that they're taking is going to be assistive to one or two of their people into a family. And forgetting that the law is relaxed, where the law is not even taking into the core of emotions, the law is not looting, the law is not stealing, it's not doing anything. Once prosecuted, therefore, those in the law enforcement are going to utilize the very same law which doesn't have emotions, doesn't have anything. And there is no one who can stand a chance and says, there, I'm caught up, here is your picture, you were found doing this and that, and you're able to say this is not me, or you're able to say I'm doing this and that. The law will end up taking those people into play. I'm very happy or pleased myself into this stance that many people that we have today, we are utilizing social media, and it is very a concerned thing if people are not thinking twice or so before when they do things. People are taking videos, are taking pictures. Immediately you are found in that video carrying one or two of the breads, or carrying either a COVID, or carrying anything that is the disturbances, or you have taken it unlawfully. Therefore, you are going to be found guilty in the law, in the hands of the law. It doesn't matter what type of a person you are or so. The very same video that you take on the street is the one that is still going to stand in court. There's no one today will be saying, I didn't request this person to take me this video. Unfortunately, the law has changed. It does no longer have a concern of who takes a video or not. As long as it reaches the hands of the mighties, either there is the original person who took that, or there's not that person. As long as they has arrived and reached them, it is the one that is going to be presented in court as a source of evidence, and people will be prosecuted. There are those for a good cause who are doing it understanding that if the law catches me, I'll be able to be punished. I'll be able to run dry because I'll be paying a lot of lawyers, and so they are doing it willingly. They are doing it because of pleasure. They're doing it because of their eyes are actually catching the other people, and they also want to act into that fashion. They're doing it because they are not attending sports grounds, and so they think looting into that point because it provides them with energy, and so in resiliences, they are able to go to the shops and loot and find it very happier for them doing so. So it has mix of elements. Consequences will always follow for that comes into part. The law is not going to leave anything untouched, by the way. It is unbeat that they will be having a lot of work to remember now the situation we're having in most of workplaces. Even the law people or Department of Justice, they are working on 50%. So it's going to be difficult for one magistrate or so to actually attend cases of 100 people per day. They will have to attend 6, 7 per day up to their capacity and the normal their services that they can. And others will still be remaining in custody. So they're going to find it difficult to go out. And by the way, some of them might not even find bails because there's no time to engage and hand people to have your lawyers on the side to argue for your bail's sake. So you'll end up remaining in custody for the things that you have done. But luckily, they will be able to be paid for their sins, as everybody has to pay for their sins. Thank you.
Kalane Silwane, how are you? Silwane? I think she's been challenged by the network. It's and what about the economic impact on these matters? I mean, I found it hard that South Africa was trying to thrive and to have a different directions. But when these things happens, I think they take us 10 steps back from where we were.
Yeah, correct. You found it on the core because we are engaging it as well from the national economic transformation of South Africa. So once we touch the issues of economic transformation, we are also asking as to how far are we from the dispossession of apartheid in 1994 up to date. We are actually in more than
Mhm.
27 years finding ourselves into these positions of democracy and freedom, which is the
Mhm.
freedom to exercise the skills that we have, to exercise the knowledge and the services that we have, to trade with them so that we can earn a living. You trade with your service, you trade with your products so that you can earn a saving. And once a person divide themselves from that particular core objective to be reached, which is economic transformation, and a transformation that we are seeking, we are still seeking it in the hands of those that is of our own, which is very difficult for us to arrive into the positions of which should have just been the issue of implementation of economic of some sort. But it is difficult to implement because economy is still not yet into the hands of the majority. That is why we're moving towards economic transformation. And we can't transform the economy while we are having people who are not building it, are actually returning the economy so that we go back to where we were before. It is not an easier thing. People might think that it's an easier thing for Shoprite to come back and load the whole stock which they have looted. It's not an easy thing. You don't wake up and find it a stock on the shelves. There are certain processes, resources needed, money needed, many things needed to end up having it there. Those who have burned shops, remember that the shop is still going to be rebuilt afresh because a bent cement or so, it is not strength enough to carry a number of things, heavier floats, heavier natural resource that might come.
Mhm.
And it might be very difficult for those companies to continue without not starting afresh. So we are not necessarily dragging the economy down. We are delaying the transformation of ourselves because we want this transformation to go out of the white people's hands to be into our hands of the black people. That is where the
Do,
situation we find ourselves.
mm, do you think the ordinary South Africans in the ground, do they understand the impact of their actions, whatever the actions that they're doing? Do you think they understand, or they've been recruited to be all over in the street?
The analysis that we are having, it is not the matter of impact or less impact or high impact of the understanding of the majority of our people on the ground. The analysis
Mhm.
that we are having is that these people are having the mind of looting. They are having the mind of a criminal activity. They are having a mind of injustice that they are
Get
doing
it
all the
told.
time. So it is
Get it
providing a
told.
negative effect in another way. Yes, you can say ditsotsi. Yeah, correct. That's the correct township terminology, ditsotsi.
Get it told.
But therefore, we need to assess again. Mm, mm.
Get it told.
Correct. We also need to assess what brings these people to have such criminal ideas, or that inclining criminal ideas that reaches into the level of their thinking. It is reaching into the level of their thinking because they are becoming opportunistic of the situation. They looked into the situation and they are utilizing the name Zuma, which is not even supposed to be there. They're utilizing it to be on the path so that they can achieve their own objective. Remember, the objective of these black people is to feed their hunger. It is not necessary to free Zuma. No one can free Zuma. I understand it very well. You can't take him out of correctional services, correctional services into a part.
Break him
Say
out. Keep
person
a
go
hold.
out and that person go out. We are not God. You are not Jesus. You can't say see and person see. You can't say go out of prison and Zuma goes out of prison. It is not happening. It's not a miracle thing. This is a law-related matters. It doesn't need a belief. It needs a process to be followed. And once such processes are followed, Zuma will be freed. And the process that he has to do, he understands it himself very well what he has to do so that he get the presidential pardon, and of which he might receive it after 4 months of today, December or January. He might go out of correctional service facilities to be house present at home.
Wow, thank you so much. I was joined by Classy and a very a guy who is full of information. He's a book.
and he understand a lot of things. And Peter Chipedza, this is my brother from Zim, the nation, and that's what he's saying. I don't know what it's about. But my message will to all the viewers at home. It's very simple and clear that let's not vandalize the structure. Let's not steal. Let's not be violent. We can exercise our rights, but not by destroying the structure. So that's what I'm saying. Nkateko Faith Palace said those who are looting is their choice. That they are doing has nothing to do with the arrest of the former president. People might be hungry due to unemployed, but that does not give them a right to vandalize property and stealing from other people. Now, most. Thank you so much, Kateko. And I think Kateko is an advocate, if I'm not mistaken, or musician, one of the two, if I'm not mistaken. Let's keep this message. Let's write this message to say, not in our name. Hashtag stop looting, stop vandalizing the structure. Let's stop being violent. Keep on sending this message and encouraging all our brothers and sisters to stop looting. It's not nice because the same structure that you're vandalizing is the same structure that might serve you. It's the same structure that might help you. The same government building that you are burning, the same mall that you are looting and destroying the glasses. This is gonna make some of your cousin might be retrenched and some of your sister might be retrenched because then now the business has to start all again and put things together. Let's think. Let's think for our sisters. Let's think for our brothers. Let's say no to looting and no to violence. And I beg you, South African, we can exercise our rights and our voice. But I'm pleading with you, let's stop looting. Let's stop it. Let's stop it.